Now, I'm going to get that in there, and I'm going to pry that Welch plug out. Okay, see that? All I did when I got it out the first time, I gently drilled a hole in it so I could get this all in there and pop that out. There's your Welch plug. Okay, you can get those at most Napas, places like that. But where I'm headed to on this is something I want to show you in here. Look inside, right there you go. See that? Those two holes down the bottom. This area right here is where a lot of guys, they don't know to take that Welch plug out. Those are your low speed circuits down there for your carburetor. And if you don't have those clean, it's not going to run right. So always take the Welch plug out and clean those. Now, when I say clean them, I'll show you what I mean. If they're dirty, take you a round toothpick and just go in there and make sure you get all the crap out. There's two different size holes there. There's a big one and a little one. Do not run a welding tip cleaner down in there to clean those. Welding tip cleaners are like little files, and they will enlarge those holes, and down the road that's going to be a problem. So use something soft like a toothpick that you can just go in there and kind of ream them around a little bit and make sure they're clear, okay? Now, when you put it back together, you'll put a new Welch plug in, or in this case, expedient, I'm not going to be using this carburetor for a while, so I may just put the old Welch plug back in and seal it up again. But make sure you do that. That is a very important little item right there. All right, and for those that don't know, right there, that's just, you can check your your fuel and see if there's fuel in the float bowl. That's what it's an inspection hole. All right, we're going to set that aside. Now, the float. If you'll take a little awl or anything like that and just push gently on that, pull the brass pin out, lift the float up, put it aside. If you have to check, I'm not worried about this float, but if you have a float you're concerned about, you get your pot of water boiling on the stove and submerge this float in the water. If there's a hole in it, bubbles will start coming out of it and you'll find it. The way they do these floats at the factory, see that little drop of solder right there? They solder the two halves together and then they heat it up gently to drive the air out of it, and then they put a drop of solder right there and in that hole. That's a vent hole for the soldering operation. Solder could break. You could get a corrosion that causes a pinhole in these brass floats. But it's an easy fix with a good soldering gun and some soft solder. Just put it in some boiling water, see if it leaks. No, it's real easy to do, no big deal. Now, we're up to the end. This is the inlet for your fuel right here, the needle valve. I'll just go ahead and get the needle valve out. Okay. There's your needle valve. You see it? Yeah, right there. The little rubber tip on it. Some of them will have a rubber tip, some of them won't. I like the rubber tip ones better. I think they seal on a carburetor's got a little wear in the seats. Then you're going to take your 7/16 wrench and you're going to screw this out. This is the seat for your needle. Your new kit will come with a gasket there at the bottom of this. Some kits actually come with a new seat and a new needle, and that's really what you want. If you don't do that, I think you're kind of wasting your time. Just make sure the kit comes with those. If it comes with those, you'll be good to go, and you can be assured it's probably going to work well. So just like that. At this point, I'm going to gently pry this gasket off because I do want to use it over, being it's basically a brand new gasket. There we go. get that loose there, because this gasket has to be off later on in the reassembly, and we'll get to that later. All right, fuel goes in there, comes out here. That's where your seat and valve and everything are. There's really nothing more to do on this top part, because on this one I had taken the butterfly out and cleaned it when I'd done it the first time. You can get, as you get into these, you want to take this off. It's kind of tricky, but you take one screw out, turn it over, take the other screw out, but you have to take the butterfly off before you do anything, because it won't come out otherwise. There's a little end on there for your choke and stuff. You can take that off, and that whole thing will slide apart. I would suggest you take your cell phone and take pictures so reassembly goes pretty smooth. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I'll just make a few comments on this before I close it up. Screwdrivers. All right. You can ruin a carburetor quicker than anything with the wrong screwdriver. I have been building guns now for about 100 years, I think, and I have gun drivers, and gun drivers are perfect for carburetors. This is the one I use to take that idle tube out. You want a hollow ground screwdriver. It won't mar the thread or the slot in the thing, because you got to remember, at the bottom of that slot is the jet orifice, and you booger that up and you're kind of done. So good screwdrivers, good hollow ground screwdrivers are a plus. And I have a bigger one, of course, for the bigger stuff. And little tiny needle nose pliers. You'll need a 3/8 wrench. You'll need a 7/16 wrench, and you'll need a 1/2 inch wrench. And beyond that, here's another good example of a hollow ground screwdriver. Just happened to got it out of my toolkit over there. And a pair of pliers, and you can disassemble one of these. Now, I'm not going to take anything else apart on this. I think we're good to go. On the next segment or episode, I will get into the reassembly, but more importantly, setting the float level. That's one that I think confuses a lot of people. It actually still confuses me, but there are some workarounds that make it a little simpler for you, so we'll get into that later. All right, guys, I appreciate you watching in. Remember, hit the subscribe and like button so I can keep a track of who's watching me. Thanks to all, and have a nice evening.